Welcome you all back to Research Methodology, Unit 5, Hypothesis Testing. This is an important topic in methodology because, as I was telling you in the last session, we had lots and lots of questions, be it management question. We convert that into research question, and we are trying to find an answer for that. So when we are tending to find an answer for a question, we have taken only samples. Like we have collected samples from the entire population, and we have test the results of that, which is called as test of significance, and we have to find whether the difference is because of a chance or if the difference is very significant. Okay, so we apply that. So all of you, even in our day-to-day life, we will have heard about this. It is hypothetical in nature. So it is like cat on the wall. It may or may not. Isn't it or not? So we would like to find the answer by testing an hypothesis for the sample what we have collected. Okay, so now the meaning of hypothesis. See, hypothesis is nothing but a tentative and testable statement of a possible relationship between two or more variables or events which is under investigation. Okay, so now in management, when we have the definitions, like it always starts like this, like it will say that whether it is a statement or whether it is a process, okay, or it is an activity or it is a practice. So likewise here, a hypothesis is a tentative, is considered as a tentative and testable statement. We are framing one statement, like how we frame vision statement, like, so we frame a statement about what? The possible relationship between two or more variables which are under investigation. Okay. So we have another definition, a testable statement of a potential relationship between two or more variables. And we see that as a potential solution to the problem which we are trying to address by research. Okay. This is why we say it is scientific in nature. Okay. So in order this to be useful in the study, the hypothesis needs to be stated in such a way that it might be subjected to empirical testing. So when you frame the hypothesis, we should be very careful while you frame, because we need to keep in mind what type of test you are going to apply for that. Based on that only the statement would be framed. So the hypothesis for ANOVA will differ, the hypothesis for t-test will differ, the hypothesis for correlation will differ, the hypothesis for regression will differ. Okay, so it all differs, like, because each one will be finding out answers in different ways. Supposing if you take correlation, it is an interdependency technique. If you take regression, if you take multiple regression, is a dependency technique between one dependent variable and many independent variables. Supposing if it is ANOVA, ANOVA is finding out if there is a significant difference in the mean values of a particular statement based on a demographic variable or else any other variable of study. Okay. So if you take chi-square test, it is about measuring the association between two variables. Okay. So now the characteristics of hypothesis. So how do you frame an hypothesis? So the hypothesis should be very clear, conceptually very clear. Okay, and you can't come out with a double barrel, triple barrel and all. You have only two. You have only two variables or a bunch of variables, and then you actually you find out whether there is whether it is conceptually clear. Like it comes basis on the theories what we have studied already. Then the hypothesis should be testable as well. You can't frame one sentence which is not at all testable. So like it is not like something which we couldn't predict. So the hypothesis should be related to existing body or theory and its impact. You can't take something which is fictitious in nature. Then the hypothesis should have some logical unity and it should be comprehensive. The hypothesis should be capable of verification, and the hypothesis should be operational as well. Okay, when it should be the data and the hypothesis and the test tool what you use, the technique what you use, everything should go hand in hand. Okay, so next is your formulation of a research hypothesis. So formulating an hypothesis, again, I would reiterate that it requires a specific, testable, and predictable statement which is driven by a theoretical guidance, or it should have some prior evidence. So initially itself, I told you research methodology is not it's not anything which is a new invention. Like already we are in a phase where many things are already available. So we are trying to find out whether now in this particular scenario, for that particular data what you have collected, whether it's correct or not. Okay, so the hypothesis can be formulated in various research design. So given that an hypothesis predicts a relationship, its formulation often requires the use of theory or prior evidence. Okay, it should have a base when you frame an hypothesis. That's the reason why I told you in the last session, review of literature is very, very important. Okay, so what are the points that a researcher should ponder in mind while formulating a hypothesis? So we need to have expected relationship or differences between the variables. Supposing the job satisfaction of employees, there is no significant difference in the job satisfaction of employees based on the department what they work. Okay, supposing you're collecting data from different departments and you wanted to find out whether the job satisfaction is there for the employees. Okay, so supposing you have taken up a question, like I am satisfied with the job. Okay, that is the question what you have asked in the questionnaire. So for that, they would have given 5-point scale: strongly agree, partially agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. So you wanted to test this, like you have collected data. After you have collected data samples from that particular organization, suppose we have got 2,000 people working in the organization. So you can't go and collect data from everyone, all 2,000. Okay, so you're taking only 200 samples from different departments. So you got 5 departments. You can take data 40 each from each department. Okay, so you take up data. Now what we do is, now we wanted to test the hypothesis. So what we do is, like, we frame the hypothesis in such a manner that invariably across the departments, whether people are satisfied with the job. Okay, or is the finding is just a chance. Okay, whatever you're finding, if you just apply only the frequency, the count, supposing you get, in strongly agree, you get 150 people. Okay, so when you find that, now it is only a sample. Now you need to generalize it to the total population. So how do you generalize it to the total population? By testing the hypothesis. Okay, you test the hypothesis, and then only you can, by using ANOVA, you're testing it now. So by testing it only, then either you accept the null hypothesis or reject the null hypothesis. Okay, so based on that only you can come to a conclusion that there is no significant difference in the job satisfaction of employees based on the department. Okay, so that's how you formulate it. So expected relationship or differences between the variables, then operational definition of the variable. Okay, so when we talk about job satisfaction policy, what you have, so always we say that job satisfaction should be there for all employees working in all the department. Okay, that is what the theory says. Supposing employee welfare measures, if it is going to be if it is going to be Adam's equity theory, so everyone should be paid equally. So that theory is a base, and based on the compensation, if you are measuring there job satisfaction, then everyone should feel satisfied with their job. Okay, based on the compensation, if you are going to measure. So this is the operational definition of the variable what you have. Based on that only, we have formulated that hypothesis. So likewise, as I've told you, the hypothesis should be formulated following the review of literature as well. So all the literature, mostly all of the literature says employee satisfaction is the ultimate thing what we need to look into, because a satisfied employee is considered to work better, is considered to retain inside the organization, is considered to be very productive. The person is considered to have or to come out with the products which has got negligible error. Okay, the culture of the organization will be very good only if the employees are satisfied, because we consider employees as the internal customer. Okay, so all literature talks about that. How do you motivate the people and keep them happy inside the organization? So the literature leads a researcher to expect a certain relationship as well. Okay, so that relationship only we will try to establish by testing the hypothesis. Okay, so now possible difficulties in formulation of a good hypothesis. So sometimes it becomes a bit difficult to formulate an hypothesis. First and foremost, if there is an absence of knowledge of the theoretical framework, then this is the major difficulty what you face in good formulating a good research hypothesis. Second, if detailed theoretical evidences are not available and the investigator is not aware of the availability of those theoretical evidences, then the research hypothesis cannot be formulated. So you have to study it from the previous researcher. What factors will influence which? Supposing if it is going to be online shopping behavior. Okay. So when people do online shopping, and you wanted to know about cart abandonment. Okay, so when do they just go and check it out in the cart, put it in the wish list, and without going for final payment, they come out from the cart? So why do they do that? Okay, so when you study the literature, you will find out that there may be many reasons which leads to cart abandonment. Might be there is a technical issue, or might be they not have balance in their wallet, or might be they will think that it is fishy. This particular venue where they buy the when they do where they do the online shopping, it seems to be not that good. And if there is some pop-up message, or there is a snag over there, like when he's doing the online payment, there may be reasons why the cart abandonment happens. Okay, and there are some theories also, like people go and do online shopping because of two drives. One is hedonic drive, and then another one is utilitarian. Okay, these two are theories. So hedonic is simply for fantasy. People will go and keep on searching for online products. So they'll go move, and then they'll go up to the cart, and then they will come out of that. So they will not be a serious purchaser. Okay, so people those who have got more of hedonic drive will do the cart abandonment. That's what is that's what hedonic drive means. That is the base theory what we have, we can use it in cart abandonment. But then there is another theory called as utilitarian approach. So in utilitarian approach, they are serious buyers. So they compare the online shopping pattern and the conventional shopping, and then if there is a flash drive going on, flash sale is going on, so you get products in a lower price. So these guy would actually go and finish the purchase. Okay, he'll go for the payment and he will complete it, and he will not do this cart abandonment. But then we would like to check with these two things. So supposing if even if a person out of hedonic drive he goes into a cart, like but then he gets so influenced by the marketer. The marketer should be in such a way that he converts the person who has got even the hedonic drive to make the final purchase. Okay, that's how strong it should be. So you can check it up whether the people, those who got hedonic drive to purchase also makes a decision or who does it, who does the card appointment more. Okay, so these things and all we can go and you can verify. Okay, so that is how you formulate the hypothesis. The third, when the investigator is not aware of the scientific research technique, he is not able to frame a good research hypothesis. If he doesn't know techniques on how to, what to apply, where to apply, what tools are available, so on and so forth, he may not know. So they will not be able to formulate a good hypothesis. Okay, so you should be very clear, conceptually very clear when you formulate a hypothesis. So what are different types of hypothesis? We have got only two. Like when we talk about attitude, we have got only two. Attitude could be only positive or else negative. Okay, only two. It can't be in between. Likewise, hypothesis, either it is null or it is alternative. Okay, so what is null hypothesis? So null hypothesis is symbolized as H naught. See, this H naught is a subscript. Like when you draft the report, you should be very clear. This not zero is put in as a subscript. Okay. So the null hypothesis is a useful tool in testing the significance of difference. So only the null hypothesis is tested. Keep that in mind. We are not testing the alternate hypothesis. We are testing only the null hypothesis. So either you accept the null hypothesis or either you reject the null hypothesis. We always should tend to reject the null hypothesis. Now, okay, if you are not able to reject the null hypothesis, then we accept the null hypothesis. Okay, sorry, only this we do. But what happens is when we go to the interpretation part, if you accept the null hypothesis, then automatically we are not accepting the alternative hypothesis. Okay, so it's very simple. Okay, like when we talk about it, you may find like, what is this? But then when you work out on that, it will be very simple. So in its simplest form, this hypothesis asserts that there is no true differences between two population means, and the difference found between two sample is accidental and unimportant, and it is arising out of fluctuation of sampling and by chance. So I told you, like we have to generalize the data. So are we finding out if this difference is just by a chance and it is not important? Is it significant or is it not significant? That's what we are trying to find out. So traditionally null hypothesis stated that there is zero relationship between the terms of hypothesis. Okay. For example, we can state the hypothesis, null hypothesis like this. Always null hypothesis is a negative statement. Schizophrenics and normal do not differ with respect to digit span memory. Okay, so it's a medical terminology. So we can find out, like whether there is a difference or not based on the span memory. There is no relationship between intelligence and height. So we've seen comedies and all, like a person who is very fair will not tell lies. So some people will come out with some statements, but which are hypothetical nature. We have tested it out. The null hypothesis is an important component of decision-making methods for inferential statistics. So it is the difference between the samples of means, whether it's found significant. The researcher can reject the null hypothesis. So it indicates that the differences have statistical significance, and acceptance of null hypothesis indicates that the differences are because of the chance. Okay. So null hypothesis should always be specific hypothesis and should not state about or approximately a certain things of value. Okay. So null hypothesis, as the name itself implies, it is null and void. That's how you have to state it. Okay. Now, alternate hypothesis. The alternate hypothesis is symbolized as H1 or HA. You can either use alphabets or you can use 1, 2, 3 number. Okay, so the alternate hypothesis is exactly the opposite of null hypothesis. Supposing if you state that there is no significant difference in the mean values of job satisfaction based on the department. If that is the null hypothesis, the alternate hypothesis is there is significant difference in the job satisfaction of employees based on the department. That becomes the alternate hypothesis. Okay, so the alternate hypothesis represents all other possibilities and it indicates the nature of relationship as well. So the alternate hypothesis that the mean of population of those who have the vocabulary is greater than the mean of those who lack the vocabulary also. Sometimes we have got directional hypothesis and sometimes we don't have directional hypothesis, like whether it's there or not, or whether it is higher or lower also. For that also we can formulate a hypothesis in a different way. Okay, so sometimes researchers predicts only that the two groups will differ from each other, but the researcher doesn't know which group is higher or not. So this is non-directional hypothesis. Okay, so the alternate hypothesis that is this here we have got an example. Experimental population had higher mean than the controls. Okay, this is called directional hypothesis, where it is predicted that high vocabulary children who differ in one particular direction from the lower vocabulary children. So you compare that whether they are higher or lower. But simply if you state that they are not different, then it is non-directional hypothesis. Okay, so that's all about formulation of hypothesis. Now we are into the next phase. Okay, writing a research proposal. So we need to write proposals. We need to write proposals before even you start any work. Like when you wanted to start a business, we write a business plan, right? So based on the business plan, like if they are inspired by your business plan, only then they will sanction you loan. So likewise, you should write research proposal. It is very, very important because there are many funding agencies where you get fund. And then for pursuing a research program, then you have to write research proposal. Okay, and likewise, if you wanted to do any consultancy services in any company, then you can write a proposal. So this is what I am trying to find out. You can write a proposal to them as well. Okay, so for consultancy projects, for research projects, then for pursuing research degree, you can write proposals. So what is research proposal? A proposal is a simple, structured, formal document which is going to explain what's your plan about your research. Why, first of all, it's worth researching, and how your plan is going to investigate, the methodology, what you're going to use. That's why we are teaching you about research proposal. What they will look into the proposal is whether you are going to address a vital problem and whether the methodology what you're going to follow is good, and then it is without bias. Is it worth spending money on that? So the purpose of research proposal is to convince, like to convince people to come out with new strategies or to get funding. Okay, so even for any new venture, you have to write a proposal to convince them. Okay, types of research proposals. The first thing is solicited proposals. So when there is a call for a proposal, then it is solicited. Okay, typically you call that as request for proposal or request for quotations. Okay, I told you, business plans, giving a quotation also for taking up a tender. That is also a proposal only. Okay, so now now you can understand the usefulness of studying research methodology in a proper way. So they can be used for specific requirement when you get technical content more in that, and may specify certain award terms and conditions. So broad agency announcement are not considered formal solicitation. So unsolicited proposals are also there. Proposals submitted to a sponsor who has not issued a specific solicitation, but which is believed by the investigator to have an interest in the subject. So pre-proposals, they are requested by a sponsor who wants a minimum detail, minimum effort for the full proposal. So pre-proposals, it is normally called as abstracts. So after the pre-proposal is reviewed, the sponsor notifies whether it is under their domain or boundary, and they may warranty for the full proposal. Okay, so they call for abstract. Supposing you wanted to publish something, then first of all, you can write only an abstract to them, and if the abstract gets selected, then you can go for the full research article. Okay. Then continuing or competing proposals, continuation or competing, non-competing proposals. These confirm the original proposal and funding requirement of multi-year project, which the sponsor has already provided funding for an initial period. See, what happens is, supposing you get a fund for 3 years. So there is something called as reports, half yearly progress report, and then annual progress report. So you need to keep on writing proposals if there is a change or the turbulence. You have to write, you propose to do this in the next year. So the continued support is usually depend on the satisfactory work progress and the availability of the funds. So renewal or competing proposals which request continued support for an existing project and that is about to end. These requests, from the sponsor's viewpoint, generally have the same status as an unsolicited proposal. Supposing you are finishing it off and you want the next proposal, then you can ask for a competing proposal as well. So this is how we have put up in the box types of research proposal. There are two major types. You can classify that into internal research proposal and external research proposal. Then internal research proposal, it is academic in nature, and you classify that further into non-academic research proposal as well. If it is external research proposal, you are submitting it to an external body where you are not involved into, then it can be classified as solicited research proposal and unsolicited research proposal. There are many funding agencies available, like even across the country or across the globe. Many universities, many funding agencies are there where you can keep on writing. So if you are very curious, like to do research, funding is not going to be a limit. You can do research. There are research for career break women and for the environmental perspective, for police administration, for all domains, like lots and lots of proposals are solicited by different research agencies, particularly government agencies. So many of the R&D departments would keep on calling for the proposals. We have got actually directory of R&D which is published by Department of Science and Technology in India. So you can go to that websites and you can find about the proposals invited. You got ICMR, you got ICSSR. So there you can go and write your proposals, and they are capacity building councils where they support the research. Okay. So what is the template for the research proposal? We need to have a template, right? How do you write a proposal? So we will be teaching you two things in research methodology. In the last units, I'll be teaching you about the report writing. After you finish the research, we will submit a report. So that also is there. And before starting a work, we come out with a plan. So that is what is called as research proposal. Both will look the same, but only then we will not have the interpretation. We will not be up to methodology. It is the same. There you will be having findings and conclusion, findings, suggestions, directions for future research, limitations, implications for managers. All these things you will have in the completed research, but in the proposal you will not have that. So what comes first? First comes the title. The title should be very clear about what you are trying to do, and you have to write about the background and the rationale. So you in the rationale you should write about the international relevance and the national relevance. So how far it's applicable. So the background and the issues of your proposed research. So there should be a problem. Okay. So where do you identify that? With the literature review. You identify it by the literature review, and the summary of key debates and developments in the field should be there in the background. Then you come out with a research question. You should formulate these clearly, giving an explanation as to what problem and issues are to be explored and why they are worth exploring. So I was telling you, like satisfied employees are likely to retain in the organization. So supposing the attrition rate increases, okay, the retention falls down, then you may have a question like whether there is a relationship between the satisfaction of employees and the retention. Okay, and you need to find out why people are leaving and going. Recently in infrastructure companies and all, I've heard that many people have left the job. Project-based organization, they have left the job, particularly after this pandemic. So we need to find out why people are still leaving. If you take ITS company, then retention becomes an important problem. So job hopping is there. Even if they get 1,000 rupees extra salary, they jump from one place to the other place. Likewise, brand image of one product. There is no brand loyalty. People keep on trying new things, explore. So you need to find out if there is that question will arise in your mind. So research methodology of right methodology is very important thing in the proposal. You should provide an outline. You should convince them that it is going to be done scientifically. So the theoretical resources can be drawn on the research approach. You have to state about the methodology you are going to use, the tools and techniques you are going to use. All this should be stated properly. The sampling methodology, what you're going to use, so on and so forth. Then a plan of work and time schedule is very important. You should give an outline of various stages and corresponding timelines for developing and implementation of the project work. Supposing if it's to be completed within 3 years, if it's an academic work like writing a thesis, with writing up completed in the 4th year of registration, that you have tried. So part time you should of your research you should complete within 6 years, with writing up completed by the 8th year. The last one is the bibliography, where you have to talk about the references or the key articles from which were the sources for your proposal. The selection of sources is appropriate, should be appropriate to your proposed research. Okay, so thank you for the patient listening. I will meet you in the next session.